Sometimes the smallest visits have a way of changing everything. I told myself I was only stopping by her house to say hello, just a polite visit, nothing emotional, nothing deep. I had plans waiting for me, a tight schedule, a life that moved too fast to slow down for memories. But the moment she opened the door, something shifted. Her eyes shimmered, not just with tears, but with years of waiting, like time itself had paused for this moment. She smiled softly and said, "Why don't you stay a little longer?" Those 7 simple words froze me in place. I didn't realize it then, but agreeing to stay would quietly rewrite everything I thought I knew about love, loss, and forgiveness. Before we go any further, take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe to Whispers of Kindness for more stories that touch the heart and remind us what truly matters in life. The afternoon sun spilled warm gold across the silent street as I parked in front of her old brick house, the same one with ivy climbing its walls, clinging tightly as if it refused to let go of the past. It had been 3 years since I last stood there, 3 years since I promised I'd come back soon, but soon turned into months, months into seasons, and seasons into silence. I stood by my car, staring at her front door, feeling the weight of time press against my chest. Everything looked smaller, now more fragile, like it had aged faster than I remembered. A gentle breeze carried the faint scent of jasmine, the same flowers she used to grow in little terracotta pots along the porch. That familiar smell made my throat tighten. For a moment, I almost left. What was I really doing there? Just a quick hello, I told myself. Just checking in. Nothing more when I finally knocked. It wasn't the sound of my knuckles hitting the wood that unsettled me. It was the silence afterward. The door didn't open right away. The pause stretched, heavy and uncomfortable, as if she needed time just to reach it. Then, slowly, the door creaked open, and there she stood, Mrs. Harper, my old neighbor, my childhood anchor, the woman who had once been more of a mother to me than anyone else ever was. Her hair was whiter now, softer somehow, and her smile hesitated before finally settling on her face. "Ethan," she said quietly, like she wasn't sure it was really me. "It's me." "Mrs. Harper," I answered with a weak, almost nervous smile. "I was just in town and thought I'd stop by to say hello." She studied my face for a long moment, her eyes shining with something unspoken. Then, as if the years between us suddenly collapsed, she smiled again. "Well," she said gently, "why don't you stay a little longer?" I hesitated. I had places to be, a meeting, a dinner, a life packed so tightly there was no space left for pauses. But something in her voice, soft and fragile, almost pleading without asking, pulled me in. Before I could talk myself out of it, I stepped inside. The house smelled exactly the same. Fresh baked bread, lavender, and just a hint of cinnamon from the cookies she used to make when I was a kid. The old clock on the wall ticked steadily, that familiar rhythm that once filled my childhood afternoons with safety and warmth. "You've redecorated," I said, glancing around. She let out a light laugh. "No, dear. Things just move around on their own when you get old." We sat together in the living room, sunlight filtering through lace curtains, dust motes drifting like tiny ghosts in the air. She poured tea into 2 mismatched cups, the same ones she'd kept since her husband, Arthur, passed away. I remembered the stories she used to tell about him. How they met at a train station, how he proposed in the rain, how she never stopped loving him, even after cancer took him away. She looked at me over the rim of her cup and asked softly, "So, how's life? Life treating you well, Ethan?" She asked, her voice wrapped in genuine care, the kind that doesn't rush or judge. I shrugged and gave a half smile. Busy, I said. I guess that's a good thing. Busy isn't always the same as happy, she replied softly. Her words landed gently, but they hit deep. For a moment, I had nothing to say. Because she was right. I'd been running non-stops, deadlines, promotions, and goals that looked good on paper but felt empty inside. Somewhere along the way, I'd forgotten how to slow down, how to breathe, how to feel. She leaned forward and took my hand. Her skin was thin like paper, fragile, yet still warm. You used to smile more, she whispered. I looked at her and something inside me cracked open. We talked for hours, about everything, about nothing. About all the little things that had changed and the big things that somehow stayed the same. She told me about the neighbors who'd moved away, the boy down the street who had gotten married, and how she still baked every Sunday, even though there was no one left to share it with. When the clock struck 6, I realized I'd completely lost track of time. I stood up quickly, apologizing, but she looked up at me with that same trembling smile and said, "Stay a little longer." And so I did. We ate dinner together, soup and bread. Simple, warm, perfect. I washed the dishes while she hummed a tune I hadn't heard since I was a child. The kind of song that makes the air itself feel heavy with nostalgia. Then she brought out an old photo album, its edges worn, its pages curling with age. There were pictures of me, little me, grinning with missing teeth, holding a cookie in each hand. You were like the sun I never had, she said quietly. Her eyes shimmered, and for the first time I saw it clearly. Loneliness, not loud or dramatic, just quietly lingering. She looked frailer now, almost smaller than before, and my chest tightened, like her body was tired of pretending it was still strong. I noticed the pills lined up on her nightstand, the faint tremble in her hands as she lifted her cup, and suddenly her words made sense. Why don't you stay a little longer? It hadn't just been an invitation. It had been a quiet wish. That night, we sat by the fireplace. The flames danced softly as she told me stories. Some I remembered by heart, others I was hearing for the first time. I told her about my job, my failed engagement, and the hollow feeling that came with chasing success that never felt like enough. She listened the way only she could, like every word mattered, like I mattered at one point. She closed her eyes and rested her head against the chair. "Ethan," she said gently, "promise me something. Anything," I said without hesitation. "Don't wait until people are gone to tell them they mattered." My throat tightened as I swallowed hard. "I won't," I whispered. When I finally left that night, she hugged me tighter than she ever had before. "Come back soon," she said. "I will," I promised, but life, once again, got in the way. Weeks passed, then months, until one morning my phone rang. It was the same neighbor who used to bring her groceries. "Ethan," she said softly, "I thought you should know. Mrs. Harper passed away last night." The world went quiet. When I arrived at her house, everything looked the same: the curtains, the jasmine, the ticking clock. But it felt empty, like the house itself was holding its breath. On the table beside her teacup sat a folded note, written in her neat, shaking handwriting. "Ethan, if you're reading this, you came back. Thank you for staying a little longer that day. You reminded me what love feels like, simply being remembered. Take care of yourself. Don't let the world make you forget how to be kind." I sat there for a long time, holding that note as tears blurred the ink. She had been right all along. Life isn't measured by how much we achieve. It's measured by how deeply we connect, even in fleeting moments. I left her house at sunset, but her words stayed with me. Now, whenever I pass someone I once knew, whenever I feel too busy for a conversation, I hear her voice again. Why don't you stay a little longer? And sometimes I do. Because you never know when a small visit might become a final goodbye, or a beautiful reminder that love, in its simplest form, is everything.